Hello, and welcome to Grand Prix, where I, a clueless person, am going to be taught everything there is to know about Formula One by my best friends who know substantially more than me. Now, for the first episode, you deep dived into all of the drivers, and I got a very intense crash course, which I probably only remember 2% of.
You say intense, we say informative.
I enjoyed the tea and the drama.
Okay, well, we can work with that. I mean, there's 2% more than you knew before the podcast, and that's a positive.
That's true, and now I know who to root for, and it's going to be the cute ones.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you made that decision after hearing everything we put into it.
You are everything wrong with this sport.
I think I'm everything right. But now for this episode, you've deep dived into all the teams.
Yes, and luckily for you, there is again tea and drama.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Ooh, now
Bucket
I'm
loads.
interested.
I'm so glad to hear you weren't interested before.
No, I don't know why I'm here.
Yes, so as you said, we're going to be doing a deep dive into all of the teams. And to begin with, we are going to go for McLaren because they were, of course, 2024 constructor winners. And you've prepared a nice little way for us to introduce each team, haven't you?
Yes, I've decided why be boring when you can be fun. So I've decided to create a headline so you can have a front page title to know exactly what each team is really about. And I think that they are snappy, informative and cutesy.
Ooh, she got her creative juices out.
I did, ew. What did you say flowing? Why am I getting them out?
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Okay, cute. Yeah, okay, I got my creative juices flowing. Would you like to hear the first one for McLaren?
Yes, please.
The Papaya Power, rebuilding legacy and aiming for the top.
The papaya power.
Yes.
What's the context of that?
Okay, so McLaren have had many different iterations of their cars, but in recent years, they've decided to go for a beautiful orange papaya colour for their car. Henceforth, their fans have become the Papaya Army.
Their friends are not very creative, are they?
What? That's what
do you
coming
mean?
from McLaren stands.
Papaya power. That's what they chose.
No, that's just what I've called in the headline, that they're called the Papaya Army.
Oh, that makes a difference.
The sass!
What's with the smoke? That's the headline. Well done to me. Thank you, listeners, for enjoying that first headline. You're going to hear 9 more.
I think you could do better.
Okay, thank you. Nav, would you like to do the first deep dive of our episode?
Sure. So, McLaren were founded by Bruce McLaren in 1963, and the team entered Formula One in 1966. In the 70s and 80s, that was the golden era for McLaren. They were performing really, really well, and Ron Dennis had been leading the team, really creating a winning culture, and the team were constantly pushing the boundaries, developing cars that gave them the edge. They had tag turbo engines and later Honda engines that were really key in giving them an advantage. And McLaren were able to give World Drivers' Championships to Fittipaldi, Hunt, Lauda, Prost, Senna, Hakkinen, and, of course, Lewis Hamilton.
The only one I recognise.
Probably the only one you're alive for. By the late 90s and early 2000s, however, McLaren experienced a decline in performance and were struggling to compete against the likes of Ferrari and some of their other rivals. And despite managing to get the occasional wins, and I mean occasional, the championships proved just way too tricky to win due to a lot of reliability issues and also strategic mishaps. Now, I promised you drama and I
Yes.
promised you tea. And the first big bit of drama came in 2007 with Spygate. Now, you know a lot about this, more than I do, so I'm going to let you take it.
Okay, we're going to journey back to 2007. There was a disgruntled Ferrari employee called Nigel Stepney. Go into the mind of Nigel. He's fed up with Ferrari. He felt that he was overlooked for a rightful promotion. And instead, he decided to get revenge. Take it in his own hands.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you, Nav. So, he basically was allegedly passing along super secret documents from Ferrari straight into the hands of McLaren's chief designer, Mike Coughlin. Now, I can tell you want to know more, don't you?
Yes, I do.
There we go. Okay. Nigel passes these documents over to McLaren's chief designer, Mike Coughlin. Mike Coughlin takes these documents to a printing shop near Woking, because it's near their HQ. Makes sense. Why travel further than you need to?
Yeah.
He
Vital context.
Yeah. I'm trying to get you in the mind of Nigel and Mike Coughlin.
Oh, sorry, it's storytelling.
But, plot twist, guess who runs that printing shop?
I have no idea.
A die-hard Ferrari fan. Now, this shop owner sees these documents and is like, hang about, my favourite team's documents are being handled by McLaren. This seems a bit funny. So he goes back to Ferrari. I have literally no idea how he goes back to Ferrari.
I know.
Because if
Who do you email?
I don't know.
Their press office.
I don't know how he gets to Ferrari, but bitch, he gets to Ferrari. And he's like, girl, I've loved you for so long. And also, I loved that car, the colour of the red, but also, important business.
I have some tea.
I got some tea. So they find out, they go ballistic, and then they go back to the FIA and they're like, hey, this is all going on. Why has this Donny got our documents? And it all gets investigated by the governing body, the FIA, and they basically find out that they're going to get, I think it was $100 million fine for McLaren, and they were stripped of all their constructors' points for that season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was
It's an appropriate punishment. They were cheating.
But I mean, is it fair to be punishing the whole team?
It needs to send a message. You can't go get secret documents, bring them to a Woking printing shop and expect to get away with it.
That was
fair.
the issue. They went to the Woking printing
You
shop.
have to print at home.
Any other printing shop would have been fine, but you went to Woking? No.
Yeah, that's true though. If it happened nowadays, you wouldn't need to. Would you need to print them? You just send them over via email.
Yeah.
His downfall was
Fax them.
technology. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't that clever. But either way,
I'm pretty sure they had email in 2007.
He was a traditional man.
either way, it tarnished McLaren's reputation. And I think the FIA had to send a message so that other teams weren't also going to a printing shop near Woking and doing the same thing.
No, they were printing at home.
Yeah.
They
haven't in
weren't
decades.
printing. They were emailing.
But it was pretty scandalous, and I just like that it empowered the Ferrari fan to be able to feel like he was closer to his team. But imagine actually being like, no, I need to tell my favourite team about this.
Did you get any free tickets?
I know. I was going to say, what sort of compensation do you get for that? There must be something.
A shout out on Instagram. Oh no, they probably didn't have Instagram then.
They barely had emails.
So there you go. That was drama.
You know what? Yeah, that is drama.
I think so.
So since the late 2000s and early 2010s, Lewis Hamilton managed to win the championship in 2008, despite the team struggling to consistently challenge for both championships. And key personnel departures began to take a toll because obviously who wants to stay working for a team that has just been hit with a $100 million fine?
A team that doesn't have a printer.
A team that doesn't have a printer. Honestly, that is
They
a
can't
deal
afford it now.
breaker.
They've just lost 100 million.
The printer was obviously a deal breaker. Lots of people left. The team started failing. And then in the 2010s, McLaren partnered with Honda, intending to kind of rekindle their past success, move past this awkward Spygate era. It just proved completely disastrous and led to, again, lack of performance and a lot of frustration within the team. The turning point, however, was the entry of Zak Brown. Now, Zak Brown is kind of iconic. He is an American man. He's
Lando,
Ricardo,
Alonso,
Oscar.
Well, yeah, we're not just doing it for the sake of it.
Is he like the Ted Lasso of the McLaren team?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's actually a very
is.
good way of doing it. Yeah.
So he took over as CEO, bringing a completely renewed focus and energy to the team, and began rebuilding McLaren, trying to improve its reputation and overall just improve the team's performance in Formula One. And it's working. Well,
is.
it obviously worked in 2024. So McLaren started emerging as a frontrunner again in the 2020s, and Lando Norris was leading the charge with the team, and they were getting podium finishes, and they had just this renewed sense of optimism again. And obviously now we've got a very nice young and exciting pairing with Lando and Piastri, setting the stage for a new chapter in their history. Last year they obviously won Constructors, and they will definitely be fighting for that again. But now they're obviously hoping that Norris is able to get the Drivers' Championship as well. Well, they won't openly say that they're hoping for Norris too. They'll pretend like they're hoping for Piastri too, but they obviously...
They want the cute one to win.
Oh.
Poor Piastri!
What's wrong with Piastri, man?
I don't know. Oh no, I'm still thinking of him as signs.
Oh, for God's sake. Would you like to know a fun little rumour that's circulating at the moment?
Oh yes.
Drake apparently put a $20 million bet on Norris winning the Drivers' Championship this year.
Damn, that's a lot of pressure on Norris.
There's a lot of pressure
Isn't
on
there
him.
like I'm going to show my age, isn't there like a thing online that every time Drake does a public bet about something, it's like a curse?
He
'Cause
loses.
it
Yeah,
never
yeah.
works. Okay. Go
also-
on Piastri!
Also, you wouldn't really want to have Drake on your side. Like, you
Drake, bitch, I'm winning!
you wouldn't want to be in front of a camera saying, "Yeah, Drake is rooting for me."
And just a bit more to prove that Zach Brown is an icon, he made a bet with Daniel Ricciardo when he was on the McLaren team back in 2020 and 2021 that if Ricciardo won a race, he would get a tattoo decided by the pair of them. And what did Daniel Ricciardo do? He won the first race for McLaren since a very long time. And Zach Brown, true to his word, got a tattoo on his upper arm of the Monza racetrack outline, because that's the race that Ricciardo won.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's very wholesome.
He hasn't had any tattoos dedicated to Norris or Piastri.
Meow.
I know.
Drama.
There was more drama with McLaren in 2024 as the papaya rules seem to rule all.
Is that what the fans say? Papaya ruled!
Ooh.
Papaya rules!
Ooh, lame joke, love it.
Glad you said it.
Okay, so suddenly, in the second half of 2024, McLaren become a contender, right? They're winning races, they're in the fight for the championship against Red Bull. And what comes with that? Drama. That's what comes with that. So, they start playing team orders, which comes in the form of papaya rules, which isn't a formal set of rules within the team. It's sort of an informal way that the team would like them to race. But it's incredibly vague. So, what starts happening is they kind of say, hey, listen to papaya rules, which means like, maybe don't race each other too hard. And they're like, okay, fine. But then papaya rules become a thing because essentially their code of ethics become vague. And in races, there's moments where either one of the drivers could quite easily overtake one another, securing a better place in the race. But they're told, papaya rules, team orders, don't do that. But it started to feel to fans that every time papaya rules was enforced, it was to favour Lando over Oscar. So what people were saying was that they ended up chasing their tails in races and across the 2024 season because they made these rules so vague, no one seemed to understand what they meant, and in lots of circumstances in races, it actually hindered them, didn't help. So for 2025, we might be hearing more papaya rules. Will it be more vague, less vague, or will we just not talk about it anymore? I don't know.
I think ultimately with team orders, papaya rules, whatever you want to call them, you just need to be decisive about it. You need
Agreed.
to be clear. You can't be giving your drivers any leeway to be a brat like some
Ooh.
people are or were. You kind of just have to say, no, this is what we're saying you do, and you just crack on and do it.
Just baby them, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they are babies.
They are. But then is it a team that have gone from right at the back of the grid, struggled for many years, are coming right to the front, and it almost caught them out. They weren't quite
Oh,
sure
for sure.
how to act. Okay, now we're at the front. No, no, what to do. So I think Papaya Rules maybe was we're a loving family, we're all in it together, and then suddenly they're shoved to the front and they're like, well, wait, one at a time. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So maybe for 2025 they've had a big team meeting, maybe gone out for dinner, maybe got each other Secret Santa or something like that, and they've had
Went
a big
to the
chat about it.
printers.
Oi. Don't dig out the old tea like that. Okay, so that's McLaren. Should we go into the next team?
Why don't you give the headline and see if Reem can guess what team it is?
Ooh, I'll make it fun. I've moved my laptop away so you can't sneak peek. The Prancing Horse, a legend with a burning desire to return to glory. I have no idea what accent that was.
the accent?
That was meant to be something. Did that give it away?
Not really. Were you trying to do an Italian accent?
It sounded Russian.
I did.
I didn't mean for it to sound Russian.
We'll ignore that. Ferrari?
Yes! You obviously got my brilliant accent.
Of course, it was a hairdresser.
Okay, let's delve into the prancing horses of Ferrari. So, founded by Enzo Ferrari in 1929, initially as a racing team for Alfa Romeo.
They're all quite narcissistic a bit, those team names, because they're named after the people who founded them. Like McLaren was a guy named McLaren, and Ferrari's a guy named Ferrari.
You named this podcast after you, prick.
No, I am one. It's just not my name.
Don't know what you're talking about, prick. Okay, Enzo famously said, ask a child to draw a car, and certainly he will draw it red. Now, I've looked into this. There's actually no evidence that he actually said it. However, what I think is nice about it is it encapsulates the iconic vision of the team that is Ferrari. So, they entered Formula One in 1950, becoming one of the longest founding teams of the championship because that is exactly the same year that Formula One started. So they've entered every single championship since it began. Their first victory came in 1951 at the British Grand Prix. Ferrari enjoyed considerable success in the early years of Formula One, winning multiple world championships with drivers like Ascari, Fangio and Phil Hill.
Very Italian names.
How do I reply to what you just said?
Phil Hill. Is that an Italian name to you?
The first two.
Love the input though. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the late 1990s and early 2000s saw Ferrari's most dominant period in Formula One history. Michael Schumacher, alongside Ross Brawn and Jean Todt, led the team to 5 consecutive Drivers' Championships and multiple Constructors' Championships. And while they have remained a competitive team, they haven't achieved the same level of dominance in recent years. They've challenged for championships, but have often been hampered by strategic errors, reliability issues, and driver inconsistencies. So, they have a lot of challenges and expectations as a team. Ferrari faces immense pressure to win. The Tifosi is what they call their fans, by the way, in case you didn't know.
The Tifosi.
The Tifosi, yes.
Okay.
I believe it means fans in Italian.
Oh, creative.
But I promise you, please do not quote me.
You talk, I'll Google.
Okay. The Italian public expect nothing less than championships and victory, and the team is constantly under scrutiny. And because they've had such a golden era in previous years, the team and their fans are constantly waiting for them to bring glory back to Ferrari. They've had a lot of strategic errors, and in recent years they've been criticised for making questionable strategic decisions during races, which has cost them valuable points and also victories. Nav, was I right about Tifosi?
It actually means super fans.
Ah, someone's done her research. And it's not me.
It was me right now.
Yeah. Reliability issues have also hampered Ferrari's efforts in recent years. Engine failures and other mechanical problems have prevented them from consistently challenging for wins. The competition in Formula One is none other than fierce, and Ferrari faces strong challenges from other top teams. They need to be at their very best consistently to be able to compete for championships, which has not always been the case in the last few years. There's also been a team that has felt stuck in transition. They've had a lot of different drivers, a lot of different management, a lot of different directions, and ultimately it meant they haven't been able to consistently push forward with one vision right to the top step.
But you want drama.
I always want drama.
You weren't listening to any of that, but now you're going to be paying attention because have I got drama for you?
Did you just say that she wasn't listening to anything I just said?
Yup.
What the hell? I just got what you said.
So no.
Okay, great.
So, first of all, Ferrari have this really bad habit of putting all of their championship eggs in one basket. From 2015 to 2020, they hoped that 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel would be bringing them back to glory. And then in 2019, they moved on to Charles Leclerc. And now, most likely, this is speculation, they're putting all of their eggs in Lewis's basket.
Ooh, so Lewis has a lot of pressure.
Yeah, well, I mean, anyone that races for Ferrari has a lot of pressure. Everyone feels it because of the Tifosi.
It is a pressure unlike any other team on the grid, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like a whole country that is rooting for you to win. People will pray for you. I've been seeing on Instagram and stuff, people have put little emblems of Lewis in their cars over in Italy and like praying for him. It's a level of dedication unlike any other team that you see across the grid.
Wasn't there like an Italian newspaper that reported on Lewis coming to Italy and
it was passionate. It was written like a poem. It was beautiful. It was it was not written like the tabloids over here. We have no class compared to the Italians.
I love that though. I love the drama.
Yeah.
Do you think Lewis is up to the challenge with all of that pressure?
I hope so. There's a lot of incredible drivers on that grid now, and there's a new generation of drivers that are coming up. Lewis is of an older generation, so there is part of me that thinks, is he kind of past his prime? Is he in the best shape of his life, the best part of his career? No, this is the last chapter. However, he is still a brilliant racer, and he's won 7 championships, so he deserves to be able to have a chance, and if he has one, he will go for it.
Although he would not be happy with you saying such things, because he recently did a feature in Time magazine where he basically said, I'm not like all of these other drivers, I don't have a shelf life. Yes, I'm in my 40s, but I'm just as determined as ever. I don't have a wife and kids. My mind is fully devoted and motivated and set on winning.
And I'll tell you what, if he does have a problem with anything I've said, there's a 4th microphone. He can come here, confront me, and I'll ask him about his skincare routine.
And he'll tell you it's called Botox, babes. Now, Reem, I know what you're thinking. That was kind of lukewarm tea.
Yes.
Do you want hotter tea?
Yes.
So the hotter tea came in 2019, where Ferrari's power unit was the talk of the paddock. They were absolutely flying down the straights, leaving everyone else in the dust. And Mercedes and Red Bull were watching them fly by, completely baffled as to how they were doing it. But of course, that kind of performance comes with a few people watching and thinking, well, how are they doing that? And obviously whispers started circulating. There were accusations of creative interpretations of the technical regulations. Essentially,
Creative interpretations.
which is just a polite way of saying you're cheating.
You cheated.
So basically, people thought that they had found a way to circumvent the fuel flow sensor regulations. And the FIA got involved and they started an investigation and things got very tense. They changed the sensor rules, basically putting a spotlight on Ferrari's engine. So in some races, they had extra sensors on the Ferrari car. And in those races, for some reason, Ferrari just were slow.
They were hella slow in comparison.
And then, you know, the next race, the sensors would be gone and Ferrari were fast again. What's going on? And then out of nowhere, at the end of the season, the FIA announced a private agreement that they had made with Ferrari. No details were released. There was no public explanation. There was no explanation to any of the other teams as to what had gone on. Just a very vague statement that they had reached a settlement.
Sounds like a bribe to me.
Well, everyone was dying to know, what was the agreement? What did Ferrari do? Were there consequences? Did they actually get found out to have been cheating? No one ever found out. All of the teams put out a statement as well saying, we want to know, and just got aired. And the impact of it was undeniable. In 2020, Ferrari's performance plummeted, their engine power was significantly reduced, and they really struggled to compete. They finished 6th in the Constructors' Championship, which was their worst result in 40 years, and the dramatic fall from grace everyone knew was directly related to whatever happened in 2019 and whatever agreement they had reached with the FIA.
It's very sneaky.
Yeah, it was shady. I mean, I think it was also like would have been so damaging to the brand, but also the sport. The sport governing body don't want everybody to know that they were under their noses. This huge team were able to cheat, and they don't want everyone knowing that they potentially cheated. So they decided to wrap it all up.
Especially such like an iconic brand in the sport, competed in every single championship.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to tarnish that name realistically. Ferrari comes with money, like...
But it was very dodge. It was very, very dodge.
I mean, it ruins the reputation of is it the FIA that had the agreement with them? It ruins the reputation of the FIA because then...
Oh, honey, their reputation's already in the bin.
Yeah, they ruined that for themselves.
Shall we move on to Red Bull Racing?
Which was...
No, wrong team.
Oh,
love that for you, though. Okay, the headline is, the energy drink-fueled powerhouse chasing dominance.
very nice.
Thank you.
So, Red Bull joined the sport in 2005, and their entry to F1, I know you're thinking, is simply just about advertising. They want to whack a wet Red Bull logo wherever they can.
They want to put wings on the cars.
Flying over the circuit.
Quick question. Why haven't they done that?
Right? They could have done a whole, up moment.
Yeah. Up? That was balloons.
Yeah, but with wings.
Okay. I'm no longer taking you seriously, but Red Bull was taking racing really, really seriously. They had purchased Jaguar Racing and rebranding it, bringing a fresh and youthful image to the sport. Their early seasons were all about building a team, finding their footing, and developing their technical expertise. They weren't afraid to shake things up and bring in experienced figures like Christian Horner as a team principal, who was relatively young compared to the other team principals, and also an incredibly driven leader. They established a reputation for nurturing young driver through their junior development program, and while
One young driver.
Did I say driver?
Only one. They did one and then said no.
It's too much effort. They lost their best one.
Yeah, they said, girl, we ain't doing this again. It's long. We should focus on racing.
Drivers. And while wins were few and far between initially, they showed flashes of brilliance and a willingness to challenge the established order. The turning point came when the regulations changed in the late 2000s. Red Bull, under the design genius, god, whatever you want to call him, Adrian Newey, arguably one of the greatest F1 engineers of all time, capitalised on these changes brilliantly, and their cars became renowned for their innovative aerodynamics and exceptional performance. So, Sebastian Vettel joined the team and alongside Mark Webber formed a formidable driver pairing. And from 2010 to 2013, Red Bull were dominant. They secured 4 consecutive drivers and constructors championships, and Vettel became the youngest ever 4-time world champion. He has now lost that title, but he had it first. After that period of dominance, Red Bull faced a tougher challenge. There were new engine regulations and the rise of Mercedes, which made it very, very difficult for them to maintain their winning streak. And then when the Vettel era ended, the Max era began. Verstappen joined the team as a teenager and quickly established himself as a force to be reckoned with.
They don't have hobbies. Most of them are joining as teenagers.
Good God, woman, what are you saying?
Racing isn't a hobby, it's life.
That's what I mean. Like, go live your life. Why are you starting your career so early?
What? You're just lazy. What are you on about?
They are millionaire teenagers. Would you not want that?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. So simmer down, please.
You came in with so much vim with that.
I know. As we already recognised in the first episode, Max's aggressive driving style meant that he kind of became the face of Red Bull. It was exactly what they were after, a racer who wasn't afraid to get down and dirty on the racetrack and show everyone exactly what him and the car is made of, and he did it. His 2021 championship was controversial, and we won't go into it, but ever since then, Max has obviously dominated, Red Bull have dominated, and they have, just
Dominated, yeah?
Dominated,
yeah. Say it more, mate.
And they're currently in a period of transition because they are basically having to learn how to create their own engines now. They don't want to be a customer team. They want to be a works team, which means that they make their own engines like Mercedes and Ferrari. So they're kind of having to learn a whole new skill, hope it pays off, hope they don't fall right back down the tumbling order because the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari know how to make an engine and they don't, and they make something completely wrong and go from this period of non-stop winning to just poop.
Are most teams going down that route where they're making their own engines, or are there still quite a lot that are working in partnerships? Is that what it's called?
Customers.
There will still be customer teams, but there is going to be engine suppliers coming from, as works teams, Mercedes, Ferrari, Audi and Red Bull powertrains, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to know some hefty drama about Red Bull?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into it. So, in 2024, Red Bull season starts and suddenly there's allegations against their team principal, Christian Horner. It started with serious allegations such as inappropriate behaviour, things like controlling conduct and, potentially sensitive messages. Red Bull did an investigation, said he was cleared, but then stuff starts to leak. Alleged WhatsApp messages surfaced and it causes a complete media storm. Horner's response was basically, I'm not commenting on these anonymous leaks, but the woman who made the allegations got suspended and her appeal didn't go through. It was all pretty heavy, and this was just at the start of Red Bull's 2024 campaign after they come off this brilliantly successful season, and suddenly they were dropped right into the pinnacle of drama. And of course, the added layer of Christian Horner being married to Geri Halliwell, a Spice Girl, brought even more attention to the situation.
He was married to a Spice Girl?
He still is married to a Spice Girl.
Oh, wow.
Jerry Halliwell, but now Jerry Horner.
What a crossover.
I know.
Ginger Spice.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what. No, sorry.
What?
Copyright.
Sorry.
They won't copyright this. We don't have voices.
Hey, speak for yourself. And then Max's dad, Jos Verstappen, got involved. He was really vocal, basically saying, this situation is damaging to the team, it's distracting, I don't want my son involved in this nonsense, Horner needs to leave.
There were also rumours that the person that he was sending these inappropriate messages to was dating Max's dad?
Yeah, that did go round as well, but I don't know if that was true or not. But there was rumours.
Yeah.
But he was genuinely concerned about the team's atmosphere, saying that it was internally falling apart, and there was an intense clash between both Horner and Jos Verstappen. Even though things have quietened down a bit, you can tell that things are still lingering within the team, and people have openly said that team morale hugely suffered as a result of that.
No. What? You're telling me a cheater?
You crazy
for
girl.
Team leaders are gonna cause morale to fall?
Now, I'm gonna snowball into another bit of drama. Adrian Newey, basically the design genius behind their winning streak, is leaving to go to another team. He announced that he was leaving right in the middle of all the Horner allegations and all of that drama.
Which is fondly nicknamed the Horny Horner situation.
Horner.
Yeah.
Yes. So everyone's saying already that the team is in total chaos internally, and it added fuel to the fire because everyone's like, well, look, even Newey's leaving. He finished up work on the RB20, which was the Red Bull's 2024 car, but the RB21 that they're rolling out for 2025 is going to be the first car they build without him. Even though they've got a super talented team, everyone knows that Newey's absence is going to be hugely felt. He had this incredible vision and he's so successful in the sport. So the big question is, can they keep their winning streak without his genius? And will the RB21's performance be able to match that of Adrian Newey's cars previously?
I mean, Adrian Newey basically just said, not my problem. I'm out.
Yeah,
This shit, I'm out.
I mean, he announced that he was leaving without knowing that he was going to Aston Martin, as we now know. He just announced that he was leaving and everyone was just like, oh, he's retiring.
That's fair. If it's going to be ruining the whole reputation of the team, if he's such a brilliant designer, as you say, he wouldn't want his reputation to be ruined as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that alone speaks volumes to his reputation, though. The fact that he announced that he was leaving, was even talking and doing interviews and stuff about retiring, going off and buying and building a house and stuff like that. And still had people running up to him being like, no, don't retire. Come and work for us instead. Like,
Yeah.
That's how you know he is brilliant and people would have done anything to get their hands on him.
People did ask him, why are you leaving? And is it because of all this drama? And he was reluctant to really give concrete evidence of, yes, that is. But it's obviously not going to be the best working environment. You're creating this wonderful winning car. You're competitive beyond the pale. And internally, it's all falling apart. He doesn't need to work. He doesn't, he's got the money. But if he's going to be working in an environment like that, that's so volatile and difficult to work in, you don't need the stress.
No.
The speculation around why he was leaving at that particular moment showed that even though Red Bull had this strange split down the middle, on one side, they're soaked in champagne every Sunday, they're winning every trophy you can think of, and on the other side, internally, they are all at odds with each other, no one's happy, no one's getting on, and they don't know if they're going to be able to make it one week to the next without arguing, fighting or crying.
Sounds like Aston Martin got a pretty good deal out of this.
Yes!
It sounds like Adrian Newey's getting a very good deal out of it. He is going to be minted after this.
I saw something that was like his
What's
salary...
minted mean?
Very rich.
Okay.
Oh my word. I saw something that said like he's going to be making like $3,000 every 10 minutes or something when he's at Aston Martin.
Yeah,
wow.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So Red Bull Racing is in a period of transition and high stakes. They're coming off a season where they've lost the Constructors' Championship to McLaren after several years of dominance. Max Verstappen is still their star driver, aiming for a 5th consecutive World Championship, and is now partnered with a young promising driver of Liam Lawson. But crucially, they're navigating their first full season without Adrian Newey's direct influence on car design, and they're still navigating internal struggles.
Red Bull's gonna be in trouble.
Maybe. Nav, would you like to go on to the next team?
The next team is Racing Bulls, which used to be called Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, which used to be called AlphaTauri, which used to be called Toro Rosso, and before that was actually called Minardi. So, The headline is Red Bull's junior team developing future stars and aiming to challenge for points.
Seems like those headlines keep getting longer and longer.
I think whoever wrote those headlines is not only beautiful and charming, but also should be given a break. Thank you very much.
So, the team was originally named Minardi, and the team was a true F1 underdog. They had a small budget but a huge passion. Red Bull purchased Minardi, and it marked a shift for the team. They renamed it Toro Rosso from 2006 to 2019, and it essentially became the junior team to nurture Red Bull's young driver talent. This era saw the rise of Sebastian Vettel, who won the 2008 Italian Grand Prix for Toro Rosso, and other notable drivers who came through Toro Rosso include Max Verstappen himself, Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, and Pierre Gasly. The team became known for its role in developing the future talent of F1 and renamed itself to AlphaTauri to promote Red Bull's fashion brand.
Red Bull has a fashion brand?
Apparently so. While they still serve as a development team, their focus has shifted slightly. They've achieved some success, including a win from Pierre Gasly at the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. Honestly, such a beautiful race. And
that was such an emotional radio message when he won. You could tell the emotion was like visceral. It was amazing to listen to and watch.
It was honestly one of my favourite podium moments ever. The team has, however, struggled to maintain consistency in performance, and in 2024 the team was renamed to Racing Bulls. However, the V-Carb nickname arose because of Red Bull's title sponsors, Visa and Cash App, and the RB obviously being for Red Bull, or Racing Bulls.
Not confusing at all.
So the thing that comes with Racing Bulls, RB, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that it is a sister team, and it does raise some questions about whether or not there should be sister teams in F1. You've basically got, like, a guinea pig.
Do they then get the same resources as their sister team and same level of investment and work, or because they're developing young drivers, do they not get as much of that investment?
Well, they can definitely share intel. I think in the past there have been very obvious signs that Red Bull designs a new car for the new year and essentially gives the Racing Bulls their car from last year and stuff like that. There's obviously the stuff with the drivers going on where everyone's racing in this sister team, Racing Bulls, hoping to get promoted to Red Bull. There's been races where, you know, especially in 2021, where Max was fighting for his first championship, where, you know, he'd be, for whatever reason, down the back of the pack and he'd have to pass someone like Yuki Tsunoda in the sister team. And Yuki obviously wouldn't put up a fight because he's trying to show, like, I'd be a good teammate to you, Max. Someone promote me and stuff like that.
It's like almost like being in the same class as like your older sister.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You can never compete. You always get the second-hand material and you're never going to be as popular.
Something you want to get off your chest?
That felt way too real.
If Red Bull had a really bad race and they were all the way down at the bottom, they'll just never end up in last place as long as this team is on the track as well.
If it was the last race of the season and Red Bull were in the fight for the championship, then yes, they would most likely get waved through. They are still separate competitors. However, in terms of resources, it all comes down to where those teams place in the Constructors' Championship, because where they place in the championship between 7th and 8th could be tens of millions of pounds difference in funding and investment. So Racing Bulls finished 8th in the Constructors last year and Red Bull came 3rd. So that is a huge amount of difference in terms of their investment they can put into next year's car. So that is where that performance disparity can come from.
But is that fair? Like, is that kind of taking away an opportunity from an entirely different brand to come into the race?
Yes, and you know there has been, for example, Andretti, which comes from Mario Andretti, who's a racing driver that's done different formulas and different sports within motorsport, wanted to bring his team into Formula One, and he was denied entry into there. And there was an argument that was like, well, if you got rid of some of these sister teams that are so closely linked to other teams, maybe we could have room for a completely different outfit to join. So there definitely is an element of, is it fair? Do we need to have a sister team that just benefits one other large team that doesn't need the resources or any of this stuff?
Yeah.
We can still have a junior program that.
Yeah, you can still have a junior program and not have a sister team. Other teams have junior programs too. McLaren does, Mercedes does, and they just use the lower formulas to train up those drivers and promote them into F1.
I mean, even from an entertainment perspective, where ultimately the sport will not exist without the entertainment factor, it will make for a much more exciting race, I think. I mean, I'm not a fan, but if I would start watching it properly, it would make for a much more exciting race to see different brands competing rather than sister ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It just creates more competition.
Shall we move on to the next team, Isabel?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, next team is Mercedes, who finished 4th in the 2024 Constructors' Championship, and the headline is, "The Silver Arrows, masters of the hybrid era, now seeking to reclaim their throne."
You're really committing to those headlines.
And the voice as well, do you like the voice? Okay, let's do this. So, Mercedes. They've got racing roots that go all the way back to pre-World War II, but the modern team comes around in 2010. So here's the backstory for the team. Honda was like, we're leaving the sport, we're out in 2009, and Ross Brawn, the team boss, was like, don't worry, I got this. He bought the team for a symbolic £1 and called it Brawn GP.
Go on, make a dig about him naming it after himself.
It is a little bit narcissistic.
If you had the chance, you'd do it.
Especially if you've bought a team for £1.
You'd definitely do
fair
that. You'd call it Ream Racing. You know you would.
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But I would happily say I'm narcissistic.
Okay, so Ross Brawn famously said, I'm narcissistic. No, I'm joking. Okay, they had this secret weapon called a double diffuser, which was an incredibly effective aerodynamic weapon on their car. They won everything in 2009, with Jenson Button, their driver at the time, winning the championship. Then Mercedes was like, we're back, we're going to buy Brawn GP, we're going to keep all of the people, and from 2010 to 2013 they were building their empire.
Did they also buy it for £1?
Absolutely not.
No, they did not. Don't win both championships and then you only buy it for £1. But they were investing, getting the team together, getting themselves organised, laying the groundwork, and then boom. 2014 to 2020, total domination. They had hybrid engines with new regulations, and Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, they were unstoppable. They won 8 straight titles, the whole thing was iconic. Lewis and Mercedes are the most successful team driver pair-up in the history of the sport. But things got a little spicy in 2021, and Red Bull were able to close the gap and start challenging Mercedes for the first time in many seasons. We all know what happened in 2021, and as we said, we don't speak about it. Too controversial. Don't want a lawsuit. So, 2022, new rules, new cars. For Mercedes, it was a struggle. They didn't seem to be able to get themselves to the championship form they'd known and loved previously. They got some wins, but consistency, not so much. In 2024, got even tougher. They finished 4th of the championship, and it was like they're still a great team, but they're facing some serious competition now. And basically, they've gone from underdogs to total rulers to now trying to fight to stay to the top. Would you like some drama?
Always.
Okay, we've got some 2016 tea for you, dubbed The Silver War.
Dun dun dun!
Thank you, Nav. You're always on the hand when I need you. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg were best friends growing up. Isn't that nice? They raced go-karts together, imagined racing in Formula One together, and even imagined racing on the same team together. The whole thing.
Cute.
It is cute. Then, years later, they find themselves, guess what, in the same Formula One team called Mercedes.
And they became enemies.
All right, so read my script.
Spoiler alert. Jeez.
Did I get it right?
Quit reading my script, girl. They're teammates, but they ended up being each other's biggest competition. Now, usually teammates try to work together, but Lewis and Nico, it was a pressure cooker that at times completely boiled over. They had their crashes during the 2016 season, like in Spain, and the team were angry as they both lost valuable points for the championship. Team boss Toto Wolff was not impressed, and Niki Lauda, who was the team advisor at the time, was incredibly stressed out by the whole thing. They were basically trying to stop a family feud from destroying their whole team. The championship came down to the very last race. Nico won, but it was incredibly close between the pair. Everyone was surprised, but then guess what? Nico wins it. It's the end of the season. Champagne everywhere. And he says, I'm done. And they're like, And he's like, I'm done. And they say, what, for this year, yeah? And they're like, no, I'm done. And he leaves. He just retires. He's done everything he needs to do. Gone.
You know what? I respect it.
All right. I'm glad you came to the conclusion so quick.
Can I try to explain it so that you don't?
Okay.
He basically came to the realization that he beat Lewis once, was probably never going to do it again, and didn't want to even try.
I mean,
It's a bit of a cowardly thing, no?
I kind of see it as he got what he wanted. He didn't want to push it. So he's like, okay, I'm out. That's the legacy I'm leaving on. You kind of
Alright.
have to respect it.
To be fair to him, he now gets to say, I won against Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery, and no one can take that away from me. Either way, Mercedes is determined to return to its winning ways and reclaim their position at the top of the sport. With Lewis Hamilton leaving, George Russell steps into the role of team leader in the Silver Arrows garage, joined by a promising rookie driver in Kimi Antonelli, and they continue to push the boundaries of technology and strategy, driven by the desire to return to the championship contention they once knew to be at. There you go. That's all I got for you, girl.
Very interesting.
Now moving on to Williams, and the headline is "A legendary name fighting to regain its former glory."
Intense.
As it should be.
Yeah.
So, back in 1977, Sir Frank Williams, yes, he has named it after himself. We don't want any pops from you, thank you. And Patrick Head were like, let's build a racing empire. And so they did. The 80s were their golden era. They were winning championships left, right, and centre. They had racers like Alan Jones, Keke Rosberg, Mansell, Prost, Hill, Villeneuve. They had legends. And they were also inventing all kinds of cool stuff like active suspension, and they weren't afraid to push the boundaries. But things started getting a bit bumpy in the late 90s and early 2000s. They struggled, and even with big engine partnerships, they just couldn't win, basically. And the 2010s, even tougher. They had a hard time just scoring points, and it was like they had just completely lost their spark. And obviously, Frank Williams being the owner of the team, the Williams racing team was a family-run team. However, in 2020, the Williams family had to sell their team and it had to begin a whole new chapter. There was no longer the family attached to it. They kept the name, but the family was out. But here's the tea. Their facilities were seriously outdated, and in 2024, production delays were a mess. They were so behind that they even had to make one of their drivers use the other driver's car because they didn't have enough spare parts to repair the car after a crash. So they basically had to have one of their drivers sit out of a race.
Oh, that's not great.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of outdated facilities, we're talking about, having to use old systems like Excel spreadsheets to track car parts and stuff like that, whereas other teams will have like really high-end software that's doing it all automatically for them, utilizing AI and stuff like that. Williams was still on Excel. And it was very clear that they had kind of just been living in the old ages of F1 and hadn't really been able to develop because they didn't have the money to. That's basically how they've ended up where they are.
How are they expected to compete against brands like Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari that obviously have so much money? Even McLaren, $100 million fine.
They ain't stopping them, girl.
But I mean, how are they expected to compete against them when they just don't have the financial resources?
Exactly.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. They enter a period of decline, which means that they lose investment and funding because they're not winning as much, and they're not winning as much constructors' money, which means the next year they then don't have as much money to be able to spare to then keep up with the rest of the pack. And then as that continues on, the pot of money becomes smaller and smaller, and they have even less time, energy and resources to be able to update themselves and reinvigorate themselves. They then have to start a multi-year project to try and get themselves back to that, but that still needs investment. So for teams, it does end up being a vicious cycle of not having the cash flow or the budget to be able to push themselves forward, which is what they need to do to be able to get more cash flow.
But things are on the up. James Vowles, who is their team principal, he came over from Mercedes. Essentially, the job was going, and Toto Wolff said, I can't promote this guy any higher. If I did, I'd be giving him my job. Let's just let him go over to Williams and be a team principal there. So James went, and I think he's been really, really brilliant for the team, actually. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I'd give you a
nice bit of fanfare. I like it. He's been very vocal and very honest about where the team is at the moment, in the fact that they need significant investment to bring their facilities up to date and make it modern. He's very nurturing to their drivers. It's proving to be very, very good because they managed to score points. They finished 9th in the championship, but I mean, they've had years in recent history where they have ended the championship with 0 points. But they're actually scoring points now, so I'm very happy for them.
It's baby steps.
Exactly, yeah.
Would you like to know some drama?
Always.
Okay. I've dubbed this the Paddy Lowe fiasco. I like it because it rhymes. So, Williams, this once super famous racing team, was having an incredibly hard time in the sport. So, to be able to ail their issues, they decide to hire Paddy Lowe, who is a very, very intelligent, super smart tech guy that's worked for some of the best teams in the sport. Everyone was like, don't worry, Paddy got them. He's gonna help them. Plot twist. He designed a car called the FW42. I'll tell you what this was. It was totally crap. Not only was it not very good, it was also really late to be finished. So they were basically a couple of days late to the first pre-season testing, which is where all the cars grace the track for the first time of the season and the teams can get valuable data about their car to improve it and make tweaks before the start of the season. When it finally did show up, it was the slowest kid in the class, trundling along slower than everybody else. Drive to Survive, also from Netflix, the series about Formula One, captured everything in 4K.
It was actually hard to watch. The amount of second-hand embarrassment that you got was crazy.
Yes.
Oh no.
They showed the Williams team in total chaos, running around trying to fix things last minute, looking totally stressed, and Claire Williams, who was the team boss's daughter at the time, who was acting as team principal, was even having to load car parts in her bag and hand luggage as she went over to the pre-season test. So it wasn't being couriered over in some state-of-the-art truck with little components everywhere. It was in the team boss's handbag. Paddy Lowe looked so uncomfortable, you could tell he knew, like, this ain't how I wanted this to go.
You could tell he knew, I'm getting sacked.
Somebody's getting fired. So he then took a leave of absence, and I'll tell you what, that absence has happened until this day because he never went back. And he hung his head in shame and he never turned back.
He jumped before he was pushed.
Yeah, totally. But basically, they tried to hire this absolute genius of the sport. He made a total lemon of a car and then bailed. It was a mess. Williams were a mess before it, during Paddy and after Paddy, and it exacerbated their problem of not being able to get performance into that car. But Paddy did not help.
And it was ultimately just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Total love it of a car.
It's the only thing you've taken. So, Williams is in a rebuilding phase, focusing on infrastructure upgrades and driver development and strategic partnerships. They're working on returning to the midfield and eventually challenge for podiums and wins. And Williams is showing signs of improvement, and they're consistently scoring points, and they're fighting in the midfield, with James Vowles as the leader, and they've got this stunning driver lineup of Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz.
Such an exciting pair.
We are excited to see what Williams will be able to do on the track for 2025.
Very exciting. I think this is one of the only teams so far where I'm like, genuinely, I wish them the best.
Yeah, I think everyone feels that
What
way.
have you got against all of the other teams?
No, nothing against them. I feel like they don't need me wishing them to do the best. If they can do it on their own.
They don't need the power of your wish.
They don't need my sympathy. But with this one, it seems like they're really trying and they have the passion. So
No one else is trying.
To be honest with you, though, I do think because Williams have had flashes of really great qualifying sessions, for example, and I do feel like when Williams does well, everyone's happy. It's always a good day when Williams do well because they have had a great history, as we've already said. But as you say, they're an underdog and everyone loves an underdog. And they've got this family-run business that they've now sold off, but the legacy lives on and we want to see them be able to return to the top. It'd be great to see someone win from Williams.
Yeah. Right, moving on to Aston Martin, who finished 5th in the Constructors' Championship. I know how excited you are about Aston Martin, so I'm going to let you take this one.
Thank you so much. Okay, from Stroll to... I'm doing the headline, could you not tell? From Stroll to Strength, Aston Martin's ambitious ascent.
okay.
I like the alliteration.
Thank you, I wanted more from that than just okay. That was amazing.
Amazing as a stretch.
Okay, no need for that. Okay, so Aston Martin. They've been racing forever, but that was way back in the day. They've even dabbled in F1 in the 50s, but it didn't work. Fast forward to 2018, Lawrence Stroll, this super rich Canadian businessman, swoops in and buys Force India, which was basically going broke. He rebrands it as Racing Point, and things start to get a little bit interesting and maybe a little bit illegal. So, in 2019 and 2020, Racing Point was serving looks, especially in 2020 when they basically copied Mercedes' homework in every way possible. Everyone was calling them Tracing Point and the Pink Mercedes, and it was rather scandalous because it was proven that they had just used the previous year's Mercedes cars as their main design for their next car iteration. Why would they copy Mercedes? Because Mercedes was in their era of dominance and there wasn't a faster car on the track than the Merc. Then, in 2021, Aston Martin's back, baby. They rebranded, they got a ton of money, and they were ready to begin climbing to the top. 2021 to 2023, they were in their building their own brand era, and they had some good moments and some not so good. But in 2023, they had Fernando Alonso join the team. And with the new regulations that came in 2022, they started getting podiums. They started being quick. And Fernando Alonso was battling against Max Verstappen. However, that did not stay. And in 2024, they were still trying to chase those wins, but they were consistently scoring points towards the lower end of the scale.
Oh.
They've invested in a super fancy new wind tunnel, state of the art, big bucks. And they've hired Adrian Newey, state of the art, big bucks. And they've set their sights on victory in the coming seasons. Now, I know you want drama, and I've got some. I've titled this Otmar Out, Lawrence In, ... Control.
Otmar.
It's a man called Otmar. Please put some respect on his name.
Okay, I'm with you.
Thank you. So, Otmar Zafnar, he was running the show at Force India, and he continued to as they transitioned from becoming Force India into Aston Martin. But apparently, him and the top boss, Lawrence Stroll, did not see eye to eye.
Sorry, we call him Daddy Stroll.
Oh, damn. I don't want to say that. Okay. Think of it like this. Otmar was like, let's build this castle brick by brick. Nice and steady, Daddy Stroll. But Daddy Stroll was in the other corner, like, we need the Empire now. It was a total clash of visions. So, rumour has it, they were bickering it out in the background to see how fast they could win, how they could get there, and how to achieve it. And basically, they had a disagreement on the team's direction at every single step. Then, I'm going to do a fun noise now. Poof! Otmar's gone. It was a bit awkward, and it highlighted that Lawrence Stroll is ruthless in his pursuit of winning. Yes, he does.
And yet he won't fire his own
I was
son.
going to say, and he is
The
also...
nepotism runs deep.
He runs deep. So he isn't afraid of doing everything in his power to get there, apart from firing his own son.
You know what? If it works, it works.
It does not work. That's the point. But at present era, Aston Martin's ambition is clear: to challenge for championships. The team is continuing to invest heavily into its facilities, technology and personnel. And with Alonso's continued presence and the large wealth of experience coming from Adrian Newey, they are a team to watch in the coming years. The goal is not to compete, it's to win.
Well, do you think they do have a chance at winning?
Hell yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why. So, Adrian Newey is incredible at building cars. He's won many championships off the back of his own car designs. They've also got this incredible investment coming left and right. They've got this new wind tunnel. They've got large amounts of investment. And with the 2026 regulations coming in, there's rumours that they are the team to watch. So, the Emerald Green team are coming for all the top teams. They didn't really rhyme or work how I wanted it to, but I'm going with it anyway.
Well, you tried.
I did try. I'm very excited by that team. I think there's genuinely going to be a big shake-up for 2026 and beyond. I'm going to say midway through 2026 or midway through 2027, we'll be talking about Aston Martin being at the front.
Damn,
I bet you
okay.
literally no money, but that's my guess.
It's a big claim.
It is a big claim, and I'm putting no money into it, so you've got to believe me.
How much money?
No money. I've just said no money. So that is Aston Martin. Nav, would you like to talk about Alpine Renault?
Yes, I would.
Oh my god.
It is the team with the French flair and the fractured front.
Well, you didn't say where they came in the Constructors' Championship.
Please stop that accent.
They came sixth.
I saw, people listening to this, you didn't see her on her hands trying to figure out what 6 was in French. And then she said, they came 6th.
Six.
Oh, okay, thank you. So yeah, French flair, fractured front, Alpine's quest for consistency.
French flair, fractured front. That might be one of my favourite ones yet.
Oh, finally.
You need to laugh at them like that, though.
So we call them Alpine, but they used to be Renault. So I'm going to give you Renault's history. So Renault has been in F1 for a very long time. They were rocking turbo engines back in the 70s and the 80s. Then they became the go-to engine supplier, powering teams like Williams and Benetton, and basically essentially became the backstage crew, making everyone else look good. And then they were like, no, we want the spotlight, and came back as a full team again. And with Fernando Alonso, they won back-to-back championships. They then went back to being engine suppliers again and were the ones up. So they came back as a full team again in 2016, and they were building their dream house, but it took a while. And then in 2021, they rebranded as Alpine, but things got messy. They had some good moments, and by good moments I mean podium finishes, but they also had some very low lows. They had car troubles, bad strategies, and a lot of drama. The team bosses were basically having public arguments, slagging off the team's performance in public, and were basically airing all of their dirty laundry for everyone to see. They fired team principals left, right, and centre, and it was basically a revolving door of management and team bosses. Then, as we mentioned in the first episode, they had their two French drivers battling it out on track with Monaco in 2024, where Ocon and Gasly crashed, and they were both in with a chance of winning points for the team. And the bosses again started very publicly dissing Ocon. And the next thing we know is Ocon finds himself without a seat with Alpine in 2025. So Renault, Alpine, whatever you want to call them, they're in, they're out, they're just not winning.
Yeah.
They're trying multiple times.
But there was, of course, some drama. And it is called Crashgate.
Crashgate, okay.
I'll let you take it.
Oh, thank God. My time to shine. Okay. Crashgate, 2008.
Dun dun dun!
The best sound effect you've done to date.
Oh, thank you.
So, in 2008, we're at the Singapore Grand Prix. It's a night race. The cars are glistening under the lights. And girls, things got shady. So, Nelson Piquet Jr. was currently driving for Renault, and he just randomly crashes. Really randomly. A bit too randomly. Maybe it was on purpose.
Maybe it's sabotage.
Ooh. Why? Because it brought out a safety car, which was perfect timing for his teammate Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso pitted, and he was able to come right out, and suddenly he's winning the race. A year later, Nelson Piquet Jr. spills the tea and is like, girls, they told me to crash. Renault's team bosses were apparently the masterminds behind the whole bloody thing. The FIA were not happy. They investigated, Renault got busted, and both the team bosses get a ban, and Renault's reputation tarnished. So the whole thing was that they staged a crash to win, got caught red-handed, major scandal, team reputation falls into the bin.
They shouldn't have put their trust in a snitch.
Don't think they knew he was going to snitch.
I mean, unethical, yes. But strategy-wise, if he didn't snitch, I think that's kind of brilliant.
Cheating?
What are you saying?
Are you condoning cheating?
Sorry, the thoughts of Reem do not represent me or Nav's opinions.
Not at all.
Or the podcast. I mean, it's a smart move. Yeah, I did say unethical, but still a smart move.
Brilliant. Well, it must be said, they certainly haven't staged any crashes, and they're not winning, so maybe they should go back to
They
grafting.
don't need to.
But with that drama aside, Alpine's future definitely hinges on its ability to be able to address its internal issues and struggles and be able to build a more stable and more cohesive team. They need to find a way to maximise their resources and talent, consistently deliver on potential, and crucially, minimise internal drama. They need to stop bitching and moaning with each other and start putting that aggression into the track.
And
Absolutely.
And not cheat.
Well,
you just
yes.
said that cheating was a good idea. Stop flip-flopping.
Yeah, but obviously it failed for them.
All right.
God, she can't make up her mind just like them.
Yeah.
You in or you
Just
out?
I'm matching their energy.
Now, the energy I like to match is that of Haas.
Ooh.
The tagline is, "The American team, a relatively new Formula One outfit with consistent performance as their American dream."
Oh, it rhymed. How fun.
I already kind of have my reservations with it being called the American team.
Hey, it's a nice American
To
team.
anyone listening in America, we're sorry for her. Once again, her
My
views
views do not represent the podcast.
Thank you.
So, back in 2016, Haas showed up on the F1 scene. They were the first American team in 30 years, and they were like, "We're here," and scored points in their very first race. They were super tight with Ferrari, basically using a lot of their car parts and using a Ferrari engine, which has been both a good thing and a bad thing for the team, because if they had so many components of a Ferrari, if a Ferrari had a bad season, so would Haas, basically. They've had some good races, but ultimately they struggled to keep it consistent. One week they're on fire, scoring points, and the next week, not so much. And they've also been dealing with a very, 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 very tight budget, which makes it very hard to keep up with the big teams. They had team principal Gunther Steiner.
Icon.
Absolute icon. And ultimately became very, very famous thanks to Netflix's Drive to Survive. He was sassy, no nonsense, and wasn't afraid to tell it like it is. And one of my favourite quotes from him was, "We were supposed to look like rock stars, but we look like a bunch of wankers." The team hasn't had the best history because it has had a lot of failed sponsorships, which hasn't helped with their need for investment and extra cash flow. So the first failed partnership was with Rich Energy. They had sponsored the Haas team in 2019, and it was honestly one of the most bizarre and chaotic things to have happened. Rich Energy is an energy drink company led by a guy called William Story, and the deal promised financial backing that would have been significant for the team. And to celebrate it, the cars for that year were given Rich Energy's branding, which was very black and gold.
Very Sam Sparrow.
I don't know who that is.
Black and gold, black and gold, black and gold.
Copyright!
Oh. Clearly not. She didn't even get the bloody reference.
So doubts about Rich Energy's financial stability and the legitimacy of its operations quickly surfaced. There were questions about the company's actual production and distribution of its energy drinks, and the company's social media presence was also very erratic, with William Story making very bold and often bizarre pronouncements. One of the most notable ones was a tweet from the Rich Energy account claiming that the sponsorship was going to be terminated due to Haas's poor performance. And that tweet went out without a conversation ever occurring between Rich Energy and Haas.
Oh.
So, yeah, again, much like Alpine, just airing all of their dirty laundry online. And it was later claimed that the tweet was sent by a rogue individual and the sponsorship would actually continue. But then legal disputes arose, including a lawsuit alleging that Rich Energy's logo was a copy of a bicycle manufacturer's design. And the sponsorship was eventually dissolved, leaving Haas with financial losses and a very fair amount of public embarrassment.
I mean, it seems like Haas got scammed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It was not a good look.
But the failed partnerships unfortunately doesn't end there. There was then the failed partnership with Uralkali. Now, this situation unfolded because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Uralkali is a Russian potash fertilizer producer and was the major title sponsor of the Haas F1 team. And the sponsorship was very heavily linked to their driver at the time, Nikita Mazepin, whose father, Dmitry Mazepin, was a major shareholder in Uralkali. So following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the sporting world, including Formula One, faced a lot of pressure to take action, and Haas, under this pressure, made the decision to terminate its partnership with Uralkali and remove Nikita Mazepin from their driver lineup. Uralkali responded to the termination by demanding a repayment of sponsorship fees, arguing that Haas had breached the contract. They also claimed that Haas had acted unlawfully in terminating their contract, and this has led to very prolonged and ongoing legal arguments between the two companies. And they continue today. It still has not been settled.
Yep.
God. I mean, I think they just need a better sales team.
Why have they thought that? It's all so simple. So, Gunther Steiner, team principal, Gene Haas, the owner, were having some major disagreements about which way the team's direction needed to go in. Gunther wanted to invest more into the team and give them a total upgrade. And as we've spoken about previously, they need sponsorships because they need more budget. But Gene was all about sticking to that budget. He didn't want to invest more into the team as he already had invested quite a lot. But there was a shock exit. Gunther was suddenly out of a job.
I was heartbroken.
So was I. I genuinely was really upset about that. He was reportedly completely blindsided by this decision. 1 minute, he's planning their new season, excited to get on his nice Haas overalls. The next, he's out of a job. Everyone was very shocked, and he was a huge part of that team's personality. Without him, there has left a bit of a void, a bit of a Gunther Steiner-shaped hole on the markings of Haas. But in their present era going into 2025, they're in a perpetual state of flux, and they're trying to balance out their budget with their performance, which they're still finding to be quite a tricky balancing act.
Now, moving on to the final team of the episode. And it is none other than Sauber.
Sauber.
What?
Am I saying it right?
Sauber.
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 Sauber?
Yes.
Yes.
Sauber.
Beautiful. Only
Well
fifth
done.
time. Fifth time, Michelle.
Finally remembering their name.
The headline is Swiss Precision meets Italian Passion, aiming for a major leap forward.
Say that again.
Okay, Swiss Precision meets Italian Passion, aiming for a major leap forward.
Now say it
Swiss
faster.
or swish?
Swiss. Swiss. I'm saying
Please
Swiss.
don't mock her lisp on the
I
podcast.
have a lisp. What are you talking about? Swiss. Don't make me get self-conscious now. Okay, moving on. So, Sauber joined the F1 party in 1993.
So they were late in the game.
They were very late in the game.
Not
but...
as late as Haas.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. They've had a bunch of partnerships like BMW, Alfa Romeo, you get it. Mostly they've been hanging out in the midfield, but lately they could only dream of being in the midfield. It's been a total struggle for them. Right now, they're getting ready for a huge makeover as Audi is going to join in 2026. Big changes are coming, people. But it's a bit of a chaotic time. Now, I'll tell you why. Pit stops. Their pit stops, girl, their races were getting hampered by their long pit stops, which was very frustrating to not only the team, but also the drivers having to sit there like absolute twits, waiting for God knows how long for their cars and their tyres to get changed. But because Audi's coming in 2026, there's lots of gossip about who's going to be staying in the team and who's going to be getting cut and who's going to be getting replaced, which will inevitably is probably going to change their driver lineup, but we don't know who is going to replace these potential drivers they have for 2025.
When you say the pit stops are one of their obstacles,
Yes.
like what is their average time for a pit stop and how does that compare to the rest?
I'll tell you what, that's very interesting. I can tell you. So the rest of the field, pretty fast. And Sauber, slow. How about that?
But what's considered slow in F1?
I'd say if you're over 3 seconds, you're slow.
Damn.
I mean, I think the fastest pit stop was Red Bull, and they managed to do it under 2 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So the question is, will their current driver lineup stay the same, or will some people get kicked? Sauber?
You were just waiting the whole episode to say that.
Yeah, that came from me. I was well happy with that.
You seem very proud of yourself.
I am.
So, much like Racing Bulls, formerly Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, formerly Alfa Romeo, formerly Toro Rosso, formerly Minardi, there has been some confusion with the name of this team lately.
Very
Okay.
true.
And this comes with the team's association with multiple sponsors, particularly Stake and Kick. This has basically been because they've had to change the team's name depending on where the race is being held, because Stake is a gambling platform and some countries have a ban on advertising gambling. So it's confused a lot of fans, it's confused commentators. I think it's even confused people in the team when they're doing interviews and they're, getting the name of the team wrong depending on what country they're in. And it's also brought up some ethical concerns about whether or not they should be getting sponsors from gambling-related platforms.
I mean, realistically, they finished 10th in 2024. Without being too disrespectful, they're just lucky to have a bloody sponsor. I mean, they can't be thinking about ethics when you're right at the back of the field. They're just glad to be on the bloody track.
They can't be choosers.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Frankly, they're not getting enough screen time anyway, so it's not really getting advertised.
Well, exactly. Coca-Cola aren't stepping in and saying, "Don't worry about the ethics, we'll help." They're getting what they can. They've got to go racing, for God's sake. Their pit stop was slow. They're going to be Audi soon. They're trying to make the best of a situation here. So I get ethics is nice when you got money, but when you don't, you got nothing.
Also, the car is bright green. It's kind of hideous.
Yeah,
just to throw that
Brat.
in. It's giving Brat or Nickelodeon slime.
Why is she accurate?
It fully is.
I can see it.
Okay, I'm not going to be too disrespectful about Sauber, but there isn't that much drama because there's not very much going on. So,
I mean, I didn't hear about them until the last episode.
No, and great. You're not wrong.
But you remembered that.
That's
yes,
true.
I remember because I struggled with the name.
Yeah. You've also remembered them because they're so forgettable, which is quite ironic. So Audi, who are obviously taking over from Sauber in 2026, have made public statements saying that the team's current performance is unacceptably poor, which I think is a bit unkind.
But it's also kind of accurate.
It's accurate, but it's honesty can still have a filter.
But Audi's a new sponsor.
Audi's going to be taking over. So it won't be called Sauber anymore. It'll be called Audi.
Imagine they literally just got this partnership and they already talk about how their performance is so poor.
Yes.
It's because they're thinking, oh my God, we're going to have to pick up this mess.
Yeah.
We've bought this, really?
It's true. I think it's added pressure to the team, and because the team knows that they'll be having a massive overhaul in 2026 with Audi taking over, I think there's a sense of unease which could affect their 2025 season, but also going into their 2025 season, how much effort are they going to put into this season? Because they know next year it's going to be a completely new company coming in. Do they need to put much effort into it? As long as they can score a couple of points here and there, it's probably just going to be an evolution of the last year's car, which probably isn't going to be that fast. They might be putting all of their focus into Audi and 2026.
All they really need to do is just lessen their pit stop time.
You just said increase and then lessen. Which one do you want? I'm glad you're not the leader of the team.
These are the rules.
Imagine you being the boss. We need to increase, lessen our pit stop times.
Sounds like papaya rules.
So, anyway, basically, Sauber's in a weird in-between phase going into 2025. They're waiting for their Audi glow-up, but it's still a bit of a mess currently, and they're trying to find their footing for the big reveal.
They just got to stick it out for a year.
Yeah, honestly, that's all they can do.
Get.
Take what they can get, slim pickings potentially, have a bit of an ugly car, but I think the Audi car might look a little sexy, a little bit of a racy number.
And on that positive note, that is our breakdown of all 10 teams.
Great. I mean, I love the headlines.
Thank you.
Did you? That didn't come across through the whole episode.
I had to roast them. But they were fun. I love the drama. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what the history was. I don't remember any bit of the history. If you ask me about the dates, I'm not going to tell you.
As I was saying some of it, I was looking at you and I just saw glazed over eyes.
As soon as you started saying
More
numbers,
glazed than a Krispy Kreme donut, honestly. And then you heard the word drama, and suddenly it was like, oh, she's back in the room.
Every time, she would glaze over it, and then you'd be like, "Do you want to hear drama?" She's like, "Always, always."
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to be watching F1 and saying, "Did you know that in 1966?"
Not if you don't listen, you can't. Okay, so I've decided to add in a new segment for this podcast to make sure that you aren't just glazing over like a Krispy Kreme donut, as Nav previously said. I've come up with a new segment for the podcast. Are you ready to hear the name of it?
Yes.
Do you want me to sing it or just say it?
Sing it.
Okay. Reams recap.
Oh, brilliant. Podcasting. You should be a singer. Sabrina Carpenter who?
Thank you. I'm working late because I'm a singer. If you keep that in, I'm going to cry.
That'll be the social clip.
Yes. Oh, no. So yes. Okay, so what me and Nav are going to do is I'm going to scroll up on this huge document and we're going to say a team name and we're going to make you have a quick recap on the things that you remember / learnt from this episode.
Brilliant, okay.
Okay, so I want you to say it in an excited, enthusiastic, newscaster kind of vibe. Okay. McLaren, the 2024 constructors. Go.
Okay, so they're called the Papaya Team. because the color of their car is a papaya color, which I don't know. I have not eaten many papayas in my life.
Back onto the team.
What I remember from McLaren, there was some drama, which was called Spygate, and someone in the team got angry because they weren't being promoted, so then they got
It's not true.
they discovered some Ferrari documents, but they went to a printer shop in Woking.
I remembered Woking. I remembered it was a Ferrari employee.
They went to a printer shop in Woking, and then the printer shop owner was like, it was a big Ferrari fan, so then they said, no, I'm not gonna let them cheat, so they somehow got Ferrari's contact. Or maybe went to their offices, or maybe they're a stalker. They went and they spoke to them and they said, hey, McLaren's trying to cheat, and then Ferrari went
This is meant to be a recap.
and Ferrari reported them to the FIA, and then McLaren had to pay $100 million fine.
Okay, well done. Keep it more brief next time. That's just what I told you about an hour ago.
But she remembered it, and that was the first one. Well done,
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed. Okay, make this one brief. Okay, think of it as a tweet. Ferrari.
Ferrari, a red car. If you were ask a child to draw a car and it will be red. That's about the most information I can retain.
You remembered the whole story about McLaren, and that's all you give me Ferrari. Okay, brilliant. Red Bull Racing, third in constructors.
Oh, Horny Horner.
Oi! Okay, Racing Bulls.
They will never compete against Red Bull.
Oh, okay, lovely, brilliant. Williams.
Oh, Williams, named after a guy called Williams. They don't have a lot of money.
Okay. Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, they got Adrian Newey.
Adrian Newey.
Adrian, so close. I'm kind of proud of how close that was.
They got Adrian Newey, and they're going to be the team to watch out for potentially 2026 and onwards.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
Alpine Renault.
They're French. I don't remember anything else.
Not you searching into the void for something else to say. Okay.
They're the ones that can't decide if they're in or out.
Oh, yes. Yeah, very indecisive people.
The Hokey Cokey team.
The what?
The Hokey Cokey team.
What's that?
You do the Hokey Cokey and you turn around. Haas.
Oh, also don't have a lot of money?
Yeah?
Yeah. A family team?
No. No.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nothing,
brilliant.
nothing else there.
And finally, Kick Sauber.
Ugly car. Brat green. / Nickelodeon slime green. And also not doing that well. Also, why are they still in the race?
You haven't seen the race. Okay, well, we're keeping that segment. That was total chaos.
Did I do well? How would you score me?
Like a 2 out of 10.
To be fair, I expected to get a
You
0.5.
basically just roasted all of the teams.
But she had the most amount of information for the first team that we did, and
I
then
know.
nothing else.
ADHD, man.
I think we need to rename it from Reams Recap to Reams Roast.
Yes, I'm into it. Reams recap roast. Done.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's it. That's our rundown of the drivers, of the teams, and in the next episode, we will be watching our first race.
Very exciting.
It'll be the Australian Grand Prix, the first race of the 2025 season. We'll be watching the race with you, talking you through anything that's confusing you, and giving a review afterwards.
Amazing. I mean, we're going to be very sleep deprived, but it's
Yeah.
going to be great.
I'm looking forward to it. This is very, very exciting. So anyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in and making it this far. You're officially our favourite.
Thank you very much for listening to Grand Prix. We will be back in a week's time with the Australian Grand Prix episode. But in the meantime, make sure you follow us on here, wherever you are listening to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications so that you get alerted on when we release the next episode. And Maybe even follow us on social media. We'll be posting clips from our podcast as well as some extra bits. All of the links are in the show notes, so get clicking. And hey, if you like it a lot, why don't you leave us a review? It would really help us.
Or maybe rate my recap.
We want good reviews.